Okay, very good morning again, and welcome to this week's podcast. Today we are going to be talking about casino game trends. And again, we're here with two guys from Arcadem. Lovely to have you here again this morning. So good morning to you both.
Morning.
Good morning.
Obviously, this is a massive subject right now, and 2020 has been literally the strangest year for most businesses that we've briefly touched on in some of our other podcasts over the last couple of weeks. Again, apart from the sort of clear disruption which has sort of occurred and the sort of continuing change in all of our lifestyles, how do you think that sort of 2020 has sort of impacted overall the sort of gaming industry so far?
So with the impact was first felt in sportsbook, which is not part of the game industry, but it's very closely related because it's part of the gambling industry. And when all the sports kind of evaporated, it boosted casino, of course, but virtual sports actually became more prevalent, and e-gaming sports like FIFA tournaments and CSGO and everything became really popular as well, because people, unfortunately, when they've not can't bet on the football or the rugby or something like that, they want to bet on something else. And there's professional gamblers out there, and that's why they were doing that as well. In regards to casino, the way I think it's impacted more is, as we mentioned last time, we got more responsible. Restrictions were put in place, and we wanted to look more after the players from a casino standpoint and from a provider standpoint. But it's actually, I think, personally changed a lot of the trends in the industry that we were seeing from the games themselves. I can't vouch for other providers, but I can vouch for ourselves. We have a very distinct roadmap. We've got a very big roadmap, and we even moved some games around to allow the themes to become more prevalent. So with these trends now, players want to be more fantastical and enjoy what they're playing. They don't want seriousness. They want to think back to a time when things are good, because let's face it, it's not a very good time at the moment. Unfortunately, now we're in second wave as well, which is even worse. So I feel like players wanted to see kind of that fantasy trend, which we have with Starfang next year, which unfortunately most likely will still be in this predicament. The Neon Samurai was looking towards that futuristic kind of environment, but it felt like Total Recall and things like that, nature of the 80s. So people got that nostalgic feel. And with the Christmas game Evil Elf, the night before Christmas, Frostbridge is coming in and she's destroying Christmas. So, we're not really celebrating 2020 this year, are we? She's coming in and destroying 2024 ends. So I feel like players are going to enjoy that funness, and I think that we can see that for other games in the industry. We want to bring that joy to players, but obviously be responsible at the same time.
So do you think, I suppose, really, when we look at how bad 2020 has been, which it has been and still continues to be so, do you think that's the type of trend then that we're sort of almost moving towards? Is that sort of fantasy trend of people just to go, you know what, I actually just want to completely forget what's going on around me. I want to close the door and I just want to enjoy betting on stuff and gambling with this sort of stuff. And that's almost the trend that's coming.
I think we've already seen that before. This happened, because if you look at the movie industry and the video game industry, we actually seen those like old school films be rebooted, or hinting back to that with like the Wonder Woman films or the Marvel films. And with video games as well, we have some games that are like neonistic and futuristic, and some sequels coming out to big gaming franchises. So I think people are already kind of building towards that anyway. But I think with what's happened during the pandemic, it's just kind of stuck a rocket up it and it's sent it even further that way. I do think this trend will continue for maybe a year, 2 years. We'll see like more people wanting to that nostalgic effect, that fantasy, that non-serious kind of thing. But there will be a small market for like serious content, as always is. But I feel like that will come back into trend more a year or two from now. Like pirates will come back in force. But at the moment, I feel like people want to have that fantasy element or that kind of joyful element, like we have, for instance, in the game Tap House, where it's really fun in the base game. People are having a drink together and they're having fun. But then in the bonus game, we have kind of that sinister highwayman bandit feel. And I feel like people are going to enjoy that trend, back in that kind of atmosphere, having fun. Because, people having fun responsibly is always great.
And I suppose that leads into, if we look at, the trends, and if this trend is going to stick around for the next year to 2 years, how are we and how does our roadmap look like in order to make sure that we're going to sort of utilize and stay with that trend over the next while?
So with the roadmap that we have, it's big. I can confidently say, as Christian can see and yourself have seen in the past, we have 4 years worth of games planned already. So we have the ability to be very flexible, and we can evolve as well, and we can tweak these ideas, because what we like to do is we like to have games ready well in advance. So if any change needs to be made, or people really love the game, we can maybe push it forward or push it back and move things around and being flexible as a company. And I feel like that's a really big thing to do, especially with this pandemic, because no one was flexible during the start of it. But people have become very flexible in terms of remote working and staff, but they also need to do that with a product as well. And I feel like we're going to start seeing companies do that in general across all industries in the next coming months.
So one of the things I was going to talk about is obviously, what led on from Philip, what you were just saying there is the importance and the use of innovation in the sort of industry. And, we hear an awful lot about augmented reality and virtual reality and all that sort of stuff. How is that sort of technological innovation going to sort of affect our roadmap over the next couple of years and the games that we bring out?
So if you don't evolve with this industry, and this industry evolves every day, every week, every month, it's constantly evolving. You need to get with the times and you need to think of the future, or you're just going to be gone. And that's kind of the way we drive the games, because we innovate our games. At the moment, the first few games, don't get me wrong, they're very good game mechanics, but they're not revolutionary. The mechanics coming out more to the middle and the end of next year are going to be bigger, and they're going to be more flashier, and there's going to be more stuff to do. But our focus initially has been to drive quality, and that drives innovation. And you're going to see that with Arcadem's games, as I mentioned there, in the future. But I feel with the virtual reality and the augmented reality, I believe it's very dangerous for the industry, because it's completely new technology. We don't know it enough. The technology is not even fully there yet. My concern is that from a responsible gambling front, because it's a different story than someone sitting in front of a computer screen. They can just go. They can look away, and they're not going to see the casino or the sportsbook or whatever they're gambling on. But with a virtual reality, they're in it. They're immersed, and it's very difficult for them to take that pause to then go away from that. So that's my concern from the responsible gambling front. And I do think the way it is at the moment, because it's like the Wild West, we have no idea. It's not regulated. It's not a part of the gambling sphere. It could encourage underage gambling, because who do we really know is picking up this headset? There'd have to be a complex system to verify age. And it's because these systems are in place, I think it's such a dangerous thing to be doing at the moment. And for Arcadem's games, until there's something that we can have more scope on and the technology's there, we're not going to even consider it.
And I suppose really that way, when this technology does come and become prevalent, and it's licensed and so on and so forth, do you think that then actually, in the essence of iGaming, do you think that actually what will change iGaming in itself by bringing some of this new technology, and once it is regulated and licensed and so on?
If it comes in and it's, as you mentioned there, it's regulated, and we can kind of attach rules and regulations onto it, so we can attach responsible gambling features to it, and we can make the player experience safe, I think people will pick it up. But again, it's very difficult, because if it comes like a more social casino, then it's difficult to regulate who's speaking to who, and then it becomes like a kind of a chat room, and it gets even more dangerous, because problem gamblers might come in and encourage other people who've got problem gambling addictions to gamble more. Or it could be someone who was just getting used to casino experience could be confused and overwhelmed by all these people who know what they're doing and intimidated. So it's going to be a very difficult process. If it's a more social aspect, I think there'll have to be even more rules and regulations, or if it's just going to be a user-only experience where it's just them as it currently is.
Yeah, and I suppose from us from a company perspective, we've got to be looking ahead always and try and be progressive and looking ahead to see what it is. And then I suppose from us, and again from you guys, it'd be good to hear from the two of you on this. How do we incorporate that technology and those sorts of new trends when they do come along into our games, from whether you're on mobile, is it themes, artwork, the type of strategies that we use? Does that sort of coherently change what we're trying to put out there to the consumer itself?
We always trying to be in the forefront of new technology. So VR and AR as well, we're always looking into it, but it's something we see at the moment. The technology is still too new, it's too expensive, but we still always look for the future and try to see what's the next trend coming to make sure that we're future-proof. So we always look 1 year ahead normally. It's always, as Philip said before, if you don't evolve, you don't move forward in this industry.
And with the artwork and the music and the themes of the games, we're already thinking well into the future. We have games such as the Neon Samurai Tower, we have Frostbreeze, the Evil Elf, and and we have Starfang that's coming out next year, and we have other games as well where these games are having sequels. We've already designed the sequels, we've already got this story in mind for these games. So we're not just saying, we're going to put this game out there, we've got these characters, they're really good characters, they're going to have one game and that's it. We're going to take these characters and they're going to evolve with every game, and players are going to see this evolution and they're going to get the storyline, and it's going to be really cool for me as director of gaming to see our story progress, because I'm going to see these characters evolve. And when you design these characters the way our team does, they're kind of part of the Arcadem family as well. We discuss all the time in our team, Frostbree's mischievous adventures, what's she going to do next? And we've been making some really cool animations for marketing for Christmas. And with Aiden in Starfang, he's fighting Morrigan, as we released on LinkedIn a few weeks ago. Players are going to see that in game, and they're going to see that fight, and they're going to see these two characters go at it. But their story is going to progress as well, but in very different ways. And I feel like players are going to enjoy that. They're going to see these Easter eggs, and they're going to know this is part of the Arcadem kind of family and the Arcadem story for these games. And I think that's going to be a big part in what drives us. And I think that's our innovation. We're bringing story, quality, and great sounding music to these games.
I just want to pivot ever so slightly. I want to talk about sort of data analytics and how that's sort of transformed the way the games are structured. Do we as a company sort of rely on that sort of analytical and sort of data approach?
Well, analytics are always very important for any operation you do, or from a commercial standpoint to product and development. From a commercial standpoint, we can analyze how the games are performing in certain markets. From a design and strategy point, we can analyze what the trends are going, what people are betting on playing, how they're playing, and then try to make games that people want to play.
Yes, I fully agree. When I used to help run casinos, I used to look at figures all the time just to see if players are going to a certain game and why are they going to this game. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I would be like, this game, I don't think it's good at all. I'm not going to really put it in a nice place where players can see it. But players would prove me wrong. They would flock to this game, they would really enjoy it, and I'd be like, okay, I made a mistake there. Clearly, this is what players want to enjoy playing. I will make a note of that for the future, to then, if I see a game like this, I will put this in a place where players can see and enjoy the experience on this other game. So it's about learning, and this is why we need these analytics, not just from a business commercial standpoint, as Christian mentioned, but to make the player experience better. Because if we can see these figures and players are really loving this theme, I'm thinking, wow, let's give them another great game that's themed like this to enjoy as well.
So I suppose really that leads into the fact that, are we and could we, based on this sort of experience that you guys have got in the industry, structure our games in such a way that, we're relying on this data that will then provide an even better experience to our audience that are going out there and enjoying the games?
I believe using data is very important and it assists the process. But if you just do full data analytics and have that, it will kill creativity. Yeah. So it's kind of getting the right balance between the two, because you still want to be creative, you still want to be innovative, because if you just go on numbers, it's going to stop you creating new things. So I feel like the balance, if you get it just right, you'll make some really great games, but if you tip it in either way, it's not going to be that good.
So I suppose this one is going to be my final question, and I suppose a lot of talk around the industry right now is about cryptocurrencies, mm-hmm. And the fact that they're on the rise, globally, on a global scale, right? What are your thoughts of the use of cryptocurrencies within iGaming right now?
So with our games, they're available in pretty much most currencies in the world, because if a casino is licensed, we're not really fussed what currency the player's playing the game in. All we care about is if the player can load the game up, they can see the game in what currency they want to use, and they can see the game in the language that they natively speak. So the player can enjoy the experience no matter what part of the world they come from. We don't want to alienate anyone. We want everyone to be inclusive and enjoy the experience. So when it comes to crypto, it is a bit of a weird scenario, because it's not just the gambling industry, it is crypto, it's for everyone. Things, unfortunately, some of it has been linked to crime. But if we can partner up with a licensed casino who's doing crypto in a responsible way and it's totally safe for the player, great. We want to be able to have that player enjoy the experience the way they want to, but we won't go into places where they're unlicensed and we're not too sure if the player is safe, and the cryptocurrencies just we don't know if the player is going to get conned out of it. We wouldn't never do that. We'd always make sure that we're thinking of the player while we do these kind of partnerships as well.
And again, it all comes back down to what we've talked about from day one is our approach to the customer, that we want to make sure that they have the best possible experience, whether they're using, you know, the first game or the 50th game. It's the experience that they have, that they take the enjoyment from it.
Especially now with cryptocurrencies on the rise and getting more and more regulated all over the world, we feel it's very important to be able to support this currency where it's regulated for the casinos. So it's the world is changing, so we need to be on the forefront in this as well with cryptocurrencies.
Cool. Right, guys, I actually had one additional question that I wanted to sort of just to pitch out there. Okay, so if we're using a traditional approach to gaming is 1 and totally avant-garde is 10, where do you think we should position Arcadem's games?
So, funnily enough, I disagree with the 10 because I think we're a 20, because we don't do things by the norm. Myself and the team, when we're designing these games from development to artistic work, concept, or whatever stage in the process we're in, we talk about these games like they are family, and we treat the characters, as I mentioned before, like family. And that quality is driven throughout the work, and we see that in the results. And we don't, and if you look at our like kind of marketing on social media at the moment, and even doing these podcasts, we're very outside the box. And I think that describes Arcadem in a nutshell. You know, we're an arcade machine, but we don't follow the arcade machine. We just break out of the arcade machine and we show you the great content that we have. And we like to celebrate it, and we like to celebrate all members of our team together. And we're very flat, and we just enjoy the experience. Every day you get up for work and you're talking to each other, and everyone's really excited about what they're doing, and it's fantastic.
Brilliant stuff. All right, well, lads, as always, a pleasure to speak to you both. Thanks very much for taking the time today, and look forward to next week's podcast. All right, so enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Cheers, guys. Bye. Bye.